Hey everybody, this video is called Two More Evil Kings, and tonight we continue our pass-through study here in the book of 2 Chronicles, where we're looking at the evil reigns of Ahaziah and Athaliah. And so 2 Chronicles chapter 22 starts out, "Then the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah his youngest son king in his place, for the raiders who came with the Arabians into the camp had killed all the older sons. So Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, reigned. Ahaziah was 42 years old when he became king, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Athaliah, the granddaughter of Omri. He also walked in the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother advised him to do wickedly. Therefore he did evil in the sight of the Lord, like the house of Ahab, for they were his counselors after the death of his father to his destruction." So as we look at chapter 22 here through verse 9, we'll be looking here at the reign of Ahaziah that is similar to the accounts given back in 2 Kings chapter 8 verse 25 through 29 and chapter 9 verse 21 through 29. And you can think, when you look at Ahaziah, you can think the expression of like father, like son. And he was just like his father Jehoram. And he's also deeply influenced by Athaliah. And the Davidic dynasty barely escapes annihilation here between Jehoram and Ahaziah. And in verse 2, 42 is likely a copyist error. It's easily made due to the small stroke of the two different Hebrew letters. And the reading from 2 Kings 8:26 of 22 should be followed here. "And Athaliah and the rest of Ahab's house who were in the young king's life taught him wickedness, and it led him down the path to moral corruption. It led him down the path to idolatry and folly, and being induced to war with the Syrians." In the chronicler, he picks right back up where he left off with the Arabian killings his brothers. And Ahaziah, he reigned just 1 year less than his father. And we see that the upcoming queen, his mother, was controlling of her son, and she exercised great power in Judah even before she's going to take over as queen. So she's a very controlling mother. In verse 5 through 9, it says, "He also followed their advice and went to Jehoram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, to war against Hazael, king of Syria, at Ramoth Gilead. And the Syrians wounded Joram. Then he returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds which he had received at Ramah, when he fought against Hazael, the king of Syria, and Azariah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, went down to see Jehoram, the son of Ahab, in Jezreel, because he was sick. His going to Joram was God's occasion for Ahaziah's downfall, for when he arrived, he went out with Jehoram against Jehu, the son of Nimshi, whom the Lord had appointed to cut off the house of Ahab. And it happened when Jehu was executing judgment on the house of Ahab, and found the princes of Judah and the sons of Ahaziah's brothers who served Ahaziah, that he killed them. Then he searched for Ahaziah, and they caught him. He was hiding in Samaria, and brought him to Jehu. Then when they killed him, they buried him, because they said, 'He is the son of Jehoshaphat, who sought the Lord with all his heart.' So the house of Ahaziah had no one to assume power over the kingdom." And we're going to see that it's not going to get any prettier at this point. But Jehoram is also known as Joram, and was Ahaziah's uncle. And this section is what covers back in 2 Kings 8:28 through chapter 9. And it is Ahaziah's contacts with Jehoram that are divinely used to bring about his downfall. And Kings reported that Elisha appointed Jehu to destroy the house of Omri. And the death of Ahaziah is part of this judgment. And we see that even though Ahaziah is going to die as a villain, that he still receives honor. He receives an honorable burial, presumably in Jerusalem, and it's not because of his character or for being known as a good guy, but because of the respect that they had for his grandfather Jehoshaphat. And the only male survivor of the Davidic dynasty at this point in time after Ahaziah is Joash, who is still an infant. So we're not going to have an infant king. So we're going to be led to something that is not going to be a pretty picture with a queen. And Jehu, he had no direct command or commission from God to bring judgment upon the king of Judah, but he did anyway. And consciously or unconsciously, he's guided by God, and he killed Ahaziah. And Ahaziah was happy to associate himself with the northern kingdom of Israel and their kings who were wicked. And therefore we see that he died the same judgment that came upon the king of Israel through Jehu. In verse 10 it says, "Now when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal heirs of the house of Judah." So from this point on through our next chapter, it's going to cover the reign of the queen here between 841 and 835 BC. And it's covering what was talked about back in 2 Kings chapter 11. And we see that Athaliah is the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel. And you probably know the name Jezebel. And we use that term today even to describe a wicked woman. And we see that she was given her husband, who was the king of Judah, Jehoram. In verse 11 and 12, to wrap up the chapter, it says, "But Jehoshabeth, however the name is, the daughter of the king, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the king's sons who were murdered, and put him in his nurse in a bedroom. So Jehoshabeth, the daughter of King Jehoram, the wife of Jehoiada the priest, for she was the sister of Ahaziah, hid him from Athaliah, so that she did not kill him. And he was hidden with them in the house of God for 6 years, while Athaliah reigned over the land." So the life of the young heir to the throne, Joash, is preserved by his own aunt, Jehoshabeth, or Beth. And we know very little about this aunt. This is the only time we see her name here in the Bible. But we see that she held a very important place within the will of God's plan of the ages. And she was a woman of courage and cleverness, because she was putting herself at risk against her sister here and all that. And one thing we must know is that evil people will begin their work like Queen Athaliah, but they cannot thwart the plan or the will of God. We've had some wicked people throughout our world history, and one that comes to mind when I think about it, when I think of someone really evil that thought, he was going to destroy a whole human race, Adolf Hitler. He never did. God's plan and God's will cannot be overcome by man. And then, we see that eventually the coward took himself out and killed his wife. But Joash, he was like Samuel as he grew up in the temple here, as he's being hidden, and likely helped the priest in little ways. He probably did some kind of like chores or something. So to wrap up today's video, because I am on vacation, so I'm going to try to keep these a little bit shorter, no promises, because I don't make vows. I learned that from the Old Testament. You don't make vows. But to wrap up here, we see that a brief reign of Ahaziah and the wicked reign of him. And we see Ahaziah, he fell into judgment along with the house of Ahab by Jehu in Israel. And we see that the chronicler, he's also covering after Ahaziah is deceased. We see that his wicked mother gets full control of reign over Judah. And we see that the chapter is ending with God using a not so popular name in the Bible, but plays a major part of the will of God, Jehu-Shabbath, to preserve the royal line of David. And through this, God preserved the prophecy relative to the Messiah, as the Messiah was to come through the line of David. So that's going to wrap up today's video. We'll see you next time, as we're going to be looking at Jehoiada and the crowning of Joash. So I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you to be determined. God bless.